film takes place in 1940, where Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, is a young banker whose life changes when he's convicted and sentenced to life at Shawshank Prison for the murder of his wife and her lover. As the years go by in Shawshank, Andy becomes a respected inmate and eventually befriends Red, who is played by Morgan Freeman. The friendship between Red and Andy becomes quite valuable to Andy, as Red is an inmate that served several years in the prison before Andy. Red teaches Andy what it takes to live on the inside, and eventually Andy uses all that he learns to escape from Shawshank. Eventually, Red, who was offered parole, violated it as he showed his friendship and his respect to Andy and met him on a beach in Mexico to live the rest of his life. This shows a friendship and a bond that cannot be broken, as Red was able to violate something that could set him free for his friend. The scene I chose to analyze is the escape scene where Andy is escaping Shawshank Prison. One thing that the director Frank Darabont does is the use of music in this scene. The music starts off light, and as Andy begins his escape and gets closer to escaping, the music is constantly building. Finally, when Andy reaches the outside world and is free, the music becomes loud and dramatic.
Andy crawled to freedom through 500 yards of shit-smelling foulness I can't even imagine. Or maybe I just don't want to. 500 yards. That's the length of 5 football fields. Just shy of half a mile.
Another thing that director Frank Darabont does well is the use of other sounds like thunder and lightning to create a more dramatic ending. Looking at the escape scene from a film standpoint, Frank Darabont starts the scene with an eye-level view from the camera between Andy and the viewers. This puts the audience on an equal level with the characters, so the audience necessarily understands and is comfortable with what Andy is doing. The lighting in this part of the scene is relatively dark except for the fact of the use of lightning. This sort of gives a sense of uncertainty of what Andy's about to discover. The lighting for this scene is relatively mostly all the same, except for at the ending. It is possible that the director was trying to portray the darkness that the prison portrays, and the darkness that is erupting out of Andy as he's trying to become a free man and become a good man. The director, Frank Darabont, does not use any transitions in this scene. This could possibly be because of the continuity that it represents and the fact that it's all taking place at one time. Andy is finally able to escape from Shawshank Prison. The director is using a long shot because he wants to capture Andy along with the setting around him. With the use of the pan camera movement, Frank Darabont is able to show Andy's progress and movement away from the prison. The director actually does something that's not very common, where he actually goes from the angle to a high angle on Andy. This is supposed to show a sign of vulnerability, but instead Andy is showing signs of freedom as he has just escaped from prison.
Strength to believe we're breaking free.
The escape scene is a huge part in the film as it shows Andy's escape from Shawshank Prison. This mood of the scene is very exciting as Andy is escaping and the audience wants to know if he's going to be able to be successful. With the escape being successful, this scene contributes to the beginning of the film as it achieves Andy's goal of escaping from Shawshank Prison. The things we learn about Andy is that he is willing to do dirty things and anything that stands in his way in order to achieve his goal. This proves to show that Andy is a strong character and is willing to do whatever it takes to become who he wants to be.